All right, everyone, welcome back into another NFL DFS video. Going to begin to my core plays for this week. Now, this week's an interesting week. I was actually struggling to write down core plays. I have 6 written down, which I was fighting to get 6. Typically, like every other week, I've been struggling to take off some players so that it wasn't like too big. And so this week is very interesting. I just think we're getting a lot of pretty solid plays and not a ton of like elite options. And so we'll go ahead and break that down. So I do want to start out actually with the quarterback position. A lot of people are actually getting to this quarterback, guys. Jacoby Brissett, as it currently sits right now, getting a ton of ownership, about 30%. I expect that number to go down a little bit, but that's not the play I want to get to for Arizona. Now, he is someone that does look like a good play on paper for sure. Love the price tag. He's been going off. You guys know I've been on him basically every single week, minus last week. I wasn't necessarily on him because we were getting a bunch of other value elsewhere. I actually think there's a better play for the Cardinals that I want to be on. And I bet you guys are not going to get who the player is I want to be on. And for me, it's actually going to be Marvin Harrison Jr., guys. Now, he's not going to project to be the best value per se, only about 2x. And I just think that's going to end up being wrong. Assuming that he's going to be good to go in this game, I really love the price tag. And if we are betting on this being a close game, as it is, 3-point spread and a high-scoring game, 48-point spread, then I actually think Marvin Harrison Jr. is going to come in and instantly look good once again and have that connection that he's had with Jacoby Brissett thus far. Data-wise, he's only at 3.5 receptions and 54.7 receiving yards. And if we look at it, guys, you know, week 9, 10, 13, all pretty darn good weeks for him. It feels like he was starting to break out until he got re-injured. And I just think he's going to get a heavy target share in this game like we have seen Jacoby Brissett do. And so if this is indeed going to be a good matchup, I do want to begin to him, especially at that soft price tag. And so right now, my quarterback core play is going to be Justin Herbert. Okay, now this does depend on whether or not Quentin Johnson ends up playing. Okay, there's a little bit of concern that he might actually end up sitting for another game here. If he's out, then I would probably knock him down a little bit. But I just love chasing the matchup here with Dallas. And Justin Herbert is still getting a decent amount of ownership, guys. Doesn't actually project value-wise as well as Jacoby Brissett as well. I just like getting to this matchup, a game that could end up being a little bit of a shootout. And again, with Johnson potentially back, and Trey Harris looking pretty solid, I think this ends up being a spot that we want to be getting to. I have been prioritizing getting to him as well. Now, yes, guys, there's plenty of other quarterback plays that we can be on, as I mentioned in the first video. If you guys have not watched that, go ahead and check that out. But let's go ahead now and jump on into the running back. So originally, I was thinking Devon Achane would just be an easy click core play. I will say now with Quinn Ewers starting and Tua sitting, I do worry about him a little bit. I still think he's a solid play. I just worry about the upside still with him. I still think he's a fine play, but the priority play now definitely becomes Bijan Robinson. I don't think I really need to talk about this too much. Already mentioned that this game is projected to be a high scoring game. He's obviously looked like a stud. Good matchup for him. We want to begin to him. Then another player that I mentioned that I liked a decent amount at the start of the week in the first video was New York Giants running back Tyrone Tracy Jr. If he's going to get 70% of the work like he did get last week, guys, and about 18 opportunities, then he is very appealing. Okay, maybe not necessarily the best matchup, but I do think the way you beat the Vikings is by getting the ball on the outside, and that fits more of Tyrone Tracy. And so I expect him to get some work in the passing game as well. And he just looked really good last week as well. As a mini breakout for him once again. So I'm kind of betting on that, but mostly we just love the price tag here for him at 5.7. Now there could be some other running back plays that pop up maybe Sunday that we get a little bit more clarity on. Like with Arizona, if we get, confirmation that Michael Carter is going to be like the workhorse back, then sure. But I kind of think Amari DeMarcado is going to be kind of that back. If Alvin Kamara is out, maybe we are looking at Audric Estime a little bit here, but also he was splitting work with Evan Hall. And then it's starting to seem like Woody Marks could end up sitting. I think we would want to get to Nick Chubb, although Jordan for Houston really broke out last week. And so those are all fine GPP plays, but not necessarily core plays. But maybe if we get more information as the week goes on, we could adjust to that. I just don't think that's going to happen. And so another kind of interesting receiver play that I view as a core play is actually Xavier Worthy. So it's looking like Rice could end up being out. And I know that we don't have Patrick Mahomes anymore here for the Chiefs. It's going to be Gardner Minshew, and that does hurt the offense out as a whole. I mean, look at this game total, 37.5 total points, very low. But I do think he's going to be the focal point of this offense. And if he gets some of those design passes going to him like Rice typically does, if we can get his floor up to, let's say, like 5 DFS points through that obviously ends up being huge. And it is a good matchup there against the Titans. But really, like Marvin Harrison, it's more of a price tag core play, if that makes sense. He's too cheap for the floor that I think he's going to have, and both of them are kind of coming in a little bit lower owned than they should be. And then let's go ahead and jump into tight ends as well, guys. There's one player that I do really like, and that's actually going to be tight end Darren Waller. Just ends up in this very good matchup here against the Cincinnati Bengals. He actually ran 70% of the routes, and I know the quarterback downgrade is not something that we like with Quinn Ewers there, but Darren Waller has, maybe besides Waddle and HN, has kind of been this offense, right? And definitely in the receiving game. I expect him to be good to go. Originally, I thought it was going to be on Greg Dulcich more. I was a little bit discouraged about his snaps. Greg Dulcich only played in about 30 to 40% of the snaps. And so that kind of just leads me to believe Darren Waller is going to be the player that we want to get to the most. And it's a solid price tag, very good matchup. And if he's, again, going to be running 70% of the routes, I feel pretty good about that. Now let's go ahead and just try to close out this build for you guys. DST wise, I don't really care. I'm basically punting. We'll get to the I could get to the Titans versus the Chiefs. Obviously, that doesn't necessarily match up with us having Xavier Worthy in there. We'll go with that for now. Whatever. Maybe weather will change who we can be on. From there, if we are playing Justin Herbert, I do think we need to end up getting to one of the receivers, and the receiver that I'll choose to get to right now will be Johnston. And then we have 8.7 left over. That way we can afford to pay up for someone like Jahmyr Gibbs or St. Brown, and I think that actually ends up being a pretty solid build. For now, we'll go with Gibbs. If you guys want to get to Chase instead, you usually could there as well. So I think this actually ends up being a pretty solid build overall that ends up having a lot of logic. Now, I will say, guys, pulling up the 9-to-5 lineup builder, this week is so much different than other weeks because if we run this, it's actually going to be a lot, it's not going to be pulling in a lot of those core plays I just mentioned to you. And again, that kind of further echoes really the unique week that we have going. And so you're going to see like the top build here, Jacoby Brissett, Gibbs, Harvey, who I'm okay with Harvey. I don't think he's necessarily a core play. And we are going to get to some double tight end builds. That's kind of been the theme lately. Jaden Higgins is a fine value, but I kind of actually think, oh, we're getting to Marvin Harrison here. All right, nice. I actually kind of think that this is actually the appealing part of the slate, is that it is pretty darn spread out. And lineup builders that people are going to be submitting are fine. Like, I'm happy with these lineups. But I do think that this is a week in which hand builds could actually hold a little bit more value. Their single entry contests could hold a little bit more value than do lineup generated lineups. Or you can just get to more of the players like Worthy and Harrison, Robinson and Tracy. Just bump up your max exposure for them or their fantasy points. And I think that actually ends up being a pretty viable route to go for this week. But that's going to do it for this video. Appreciate you guys being here. Make sure to leave a like on the video, subscribe to the channel. If you guys want access to those NFL DFS tools, the DraftKings cheat sheet, or the NFL DFS lineup optimizer, head on over to 9to5sports.com. Get access to all those tools for a low monthly cost of $10 a month. Appreciate you guys. Good luck. And as always, let's keep cashing.